All right. Well, welcome back. Thanks for the patience during that long delay. There was a small snag with the pairings, so pairings didn't come up for quite a period of time. But we're bringing you the matchup between the two highest players in the standings now, giving Jackson a break from being on stream and bringing you Kevin Fraley and Orry Swift. Kevin Fraley now sitting at 11-4, just 2 games behind Jackson, and in second place, and Orry at 10-5 in fifth place currently. So a big game between these two players. Each of them would like to get a win here to try to stay within striking range of Jackson. Although we'll remind that the format of this tournament, you just have to be in first or second after 28 games to make it to that best of 5 finals.
Yeah, I think this is obviously you want to win all of your games, but we are getting to the point in the tournament where they're getting a little more consequential, I guess. We're getting to the point now where now we're in day 3. I guess we're only halfway through this tournament, but we're having some people pull away. Certainly Jackson is one to watch. Both players here having one too many vowels, perhaps two too many. And for the sake of Kevin, I mean, he really just needs to get rid of like AI, right? I guess you could play that. Seems a little like, what's the point? 4 points just to give your opponent scoring opportunities. I would maybe just, unless I'm missing some bingo here, just trade AAI.
Yeah, no bingos here. So probably an exchange. General rule of thumb in Scrabble is if you're going to play 2 vowels like AI, AA, or OI on the first turn, it's actually better to change those tiles. You don't want to give your opponent the floaters or the ability to overlap. So in general, I and many other players will exchange those tiles. Kevin opting to score 4 here, though. I think in this situation, I would have exchanged 4, exchange AAII, and keep the nice balanced ES blank, or perhaps AII hold AES blank or something in that vein. But Kevin opting to play AI, 4 points, and Orry to respond out of AEFLOOT, as good things likely to come for Kevin holding AEIS blank next turn. So
I think if I'm Ori, I'm thinking of something like just stacking oaf under it. Looks like he's thinking of stacking a foot, which could also work.
yeah,
I mean, luckily for Kevin, he doesn't have like some X or Q where he's going to get a ton of points off of that I, but he also doesn't have much more he can do other than stacking that F both ways.
Yeah, Orry definitely one of the more defensive players in Scrabble. That's kind of his calling card. So I'd expect to see him try to keep things tight. After an opening move like AI, you expect your opponent quite close to a bingo, and you want to do what you can to sort of block things up. So Orry, I think, going to spend some time here, see what he can do to block things up. I'm most partial to either that play of OAF, OAF, because it sets up the L that you have, or a foot underneath as well, a foot good and defensive. So either one of those good options. It looks like Orry may be thinking about foo, FOO, that make IF as well, score 19 points. Open this board up, but hold a nice balanced ATEL. So maybe you think, hey, if I'm getting bingoed on anyway, I want to be nice and prone so that I can maybe bingo back through one of your floaters. So foo,
Absolutely.
indeed, what Orry appears to be doing here. I think I may have played Oaf in that situation, score 3 more, and set myself up. But both plays have merit and consideration as Foo sets up both his L and his T behind it. But it does give up double opportunities back for Kevin.
It's true. And also, it does open up a triple lane. If Kevin doesn't bingo, he's got that nice J to set up. You'd have to use his blank, though, to make that happen. So that's a little, is it worth it? Kind of a tough call here. Maybe I'm wondering what he's considering here. Maybe just jar above AI.
No, you're going to bingo out of this rack. You've got
Yeah.
many. I mean, Jarosite, 85 points. Hedjira's, 85 points. Anything making foos and bingoing basically scores 85. Hedjira's, Injera's, Jailers, Jarosite through the O in foo. But through the first O, rather, that's going to triple up the J, make AIR. So
There
a
you go.
big scoring bingo coming down.
Is he maybe just waiting to see if he's not missing a double through that O?
Yeah, perhaps so. But this J crucially is going to give back Tolarjev or Tolarjev. I don't know how you say that word. Somebody Jewish in chat, I believe that's a Jewish word. Let me know. Tolarjev, do you pronounce a J? But that's huge for Joey or for Orry. With that rack, a J helps me bingo, and the J goes in the right spot too. No way.
Okay, so I looked it
Wow.
up. It is Tolarjev, which is actually a former monetary unit of Slovenia. So
Oh wow.
it could be Jewish, but particularly you need a Slovenian
Well,
person in the chat.
then I'm just wrong. Don't listen to me. But actually, Tolarjev, despite being a cool bingo here, not the highest scoring one, as Orry can
Yeah,
play Lee
Livator.
Vator down alongside for 84, whereas Tolarjev would score 78. So unfortunately, the cool word is not the right word in this case. And Lee Vator, Orry's highest scoring bingo. So he'll hit back with his own bingo. Perhaps that was the plan after FOO, hold AELT, bingo back when they bingo on you. And that's exactly what happens here. Orry pulls back ahead 103 to 88 after his bingo. And this post bingo draw going to be big for both players now as this board has been flung open. AIIOGTY is what Kevin's going to pull here. And I'm sure he would have rather pulled better tiles, but that Y is going to help him score big points. He's just going to have to figure out where. He's got plays like Gay, Gay, alongside Levator making joy. Holds IIOT and scores 41. Or he can play through the L if he's particularly concerned about that. He can play something like Otalgy, OTALGY, and that's 31 or 33 points. Holds II, which is not the best, but if you want the L to go away, if you don't want to open up the triple line with the joy play, then that's probably the best way to do that. One other consideration through the E is Gaiety, Gaiety, 28 points holding IO, but I expect we'll see a joy play here. Something like Gay and Joy is just too good to not play, or perhaps he would consider OY for 40 or for 36 instead.
Hmm. Either way, it's kind of nice for Ori's sake that, if Kevin goes for that L spot, he can do something with his W the same way that Kevin could have done something with his Y off of the JO. And if he doesn't, then Orry can get points up at the L. The problem is, no matter what Orry does, he's not going to have a very friendly leave. So if he does something like flow, if he does something like Dow, either way, he's going to be stuck with, some kind of clunky consonants. But the good news for him is whatever Kevin scores, he's probably going to be able to match it or at least come close with his own play.
Orry has one play that actually breaks up this rack very well. He set it up right now. It's flocked, FLOCCED. So reaching deep into the probability, these double C7s, FLOCA4 is a verb. Of course, it means to separate into flockules, FLOCCULE. So that'll be a good way for Orry to break up this rack, get rid of a lot of tiles, and score rather well in the process. The problem is that it opens this board up and gives back huge crushing plays on that top triple word.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a tough call to make. But I think if you can get rid of a bunch of those tiles and still score points, it might be worth it. Of course, he can't do it if Otalgy comes down, which it looks like what Kevin's considering. Kevin kind of has a similar problem here. No matter what he picks, he's likely to be left with two eyes on his rack, which is a yucky situation for sure. Maybe he's doing just the OY.
Yeah, an N will be a huge pull for him here. That'll help him out with this rack quite a bit. But OY makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think it gives back plays just about as much as GAY. But both plays a lot of merit, and he's electing to play the shorter OI as opposed to the higher scoring gay. And we will now see Orry. How is he going to choose to respond? Something simple like flow for 42 through the L and Levator, or the longer cool word of flocked?
I can definitely see the arguments for both. Not just because I wouldn't be sure of flocked, but I think because I would be nervous to open the board that much, I might consider flow. Or maybe something like Cowed? Is that good?
Yeah,
COWD?
Cowd is also good. Holds FCL, scores 34, so it's the same score as Flocked. CFL leave versus W leave. But I don't know, when you get a chance to play a cool word like Flocked on stream after having a chance to play Tolaryev on stream, like, whoa. But I don't know.
You
I
know
think
what? I think Orry has put it on his rack to show us that he does know it. So just in case he doesn't play it for some other strategic reason, brownie points just for pointing it out.
Yeah, one other play I actually like quite a bit in this situation is Codec, Codec. FLW in a vacuum, neither one of those letters are all that great, but all three of them together, especially with that IF on the board, taking another back F, that might be okay. Playing something like Wolf next turn or something would be
Right.
reasonable as well. So F and W actually reasonably powerful on this board. Codec, a good board closing play, gets Orry back to the shape he wants to play, and it knocks out a lot of the big scoring opportunities after OY. So Orry's got to decide. I like all of these plays. Flocked is cool. Something simple like Flow or just Flock through the L is cool. Codec, Cowed, both nice plays as well. Lots of options, none great, all good. And I don't know what he's going to choose here.
Absolutely. This is one where hindsight's going to be very helpful. If only he could know what Kevin has. Uh, really easy scoring opportunity, even something as simple as like ZD on top of that F that would set up from Flocked would be pretty brutal. Looks like he is considering Flow. I think that's a great move. I think, the leave is not ideal, but none of his leaves are necessarily ideal. Um, and it certainly racks up those points and takes that scoring opportunity away from Kevin.
Yeah, Flow or Flock. The double C's not fun, but 42 points in this situation is rather nice. And we'll see. I think Orry should probably get a sponsorship from Crocs pretty soon if he doesn't have one already. So holding on to the double C's with that R exposed. Orry always walking around in different colored Crocs at the Scrabble tournament. I'd like to see him get Croc down and then score that sponsorship. Flow is what he's going to like to play here. I think it's rather boring, but definitely standard, scores very well. I think it's a good play for him to make. And that CCDL leave, we'll see. But Orry having reluctantly to not play Flocked, and that's going to be the right decision as it doesn't give back crazy plays like ZT for 54.
Absolutely. Now the question for Kevin is, well, I guess it's always the question is, what's he going to do? Um, I'd be eager to get rid of one of those eyes. I might hold on to my Z if I didn't have huge scoring opportunities. I guess I could play something like Zag, hooking it above AI, making AA and GIF. Um, that at least doesn't open up anything new. It's not the highest scoring play, and it leaves you with IILT, and I'd be really eager to break up those eyes. But on the other hand, it does score, and I'm not seeing great other options. Am I missing something obvious here?
I think his best play is through the R and Jailers, just Grizz, GRIZ, 28 points. AILT is a nice stable leave with a bunch of E's to be drawn. In fact, just 2 on the board so far. So Grizz looks to be probably his best play here. Zag is also a good play, scores 8 more points, but IILT as opposed to AILT, is it worth the sacrifice? Another concern for Zag is you are starting to close this board down, which is exactly what Orry wants you to do. He's so good on tight boards, as I can attest. I've played Orry more than almost any other opponent, given I live in Austin, he lives in Houston, and Orry will mess you up on a closed board. So we'll see what Kevin decides to do. Play Zag, score more now, and give Orry the game he wants. Or play Grizz, which is also rather defensive in its own merit, as it partially knocks out those Joy's plays, knocks out the floating R and S and Jailers. We'll see. I don't know what he's going to do here. I like Grizz. I would play Grizz, but it is hard to pass up the 36 points on Zag.
No, I do see the merit absolutely of playing Grizz. I think getting rid of one of those eyes is worth 8 points. But that's also easier to say when you're not behind by a little bit. It's very tempting to get 8 points. And maybe those I's are a little more palatable if you pick one of those E's that we know is out. It's not like that's an impossible rack to draw bingo into.
No, absolutely not, especially with the abundance of E's. IIELT suddenly feels more palatable to me. And Orry appears to have enrolled at the Will Anderson School of Drawing as another garbage rack for him, CCDGILP for him. So he's going to have to try to get rid of some of these consonants. No compelling options to do any of them. He's got plays like PAC and COY through the Ellen Levator. Glop or Clop playing through the second L in Fool are also options, or he can perhaps go a little bit longer with something like Logic. But I'm not seeing anything super good for him here. No way to keep a nice balanced leave for him here. But I think his options score just a little bit too much to consider an exchange out of this rack. He'll have to just play through. And Orry rather famously hates exchanging. He almost never does it. So I expect to see him fight through and work his way to a balanced rack eventually with either Pack or Glop.
Together they have incredibly balanced racks that they could just combine. You saw with Kevin, he kept those 2 I's, didn't pick any more I's, but he picked 3 more vowels. So I guess I would prefer to have a consonant heavy rack than a vowel heavy rack on a board like this. Just for the scoring opportunities. But I agree with you. I think he can get just too many points to justify exchanging. I think probably something like Pack is going to be his best deal here. Just get those points. Hope for one of those E's that's still out. Maybe if you do pick a consonant, you'll pick an N. I don't think we've seen any N's played so far, and you'll have that ING. I think you just got to kind of take your chances again.
Yeah, and 2 vowels or an N would play nicely into the leave after Pack, and 22 points is just about the best you're going to be able to do. One play scores a little bit more, and that's PIED through the E in Jailers. That's 25, but CCGL, pretty terrible leave.
Yeah, so I think I'd want to keep at least one vowel just as insurance.
This is one of those plays, I think, where you just kind of hold your nose, put down Pack, and be like, please don't give me 2 more consonants. Ugh.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of those plays. Oh, no, he's going to go for Pied.
Points.
I get that decision. I mean, I don't think there's some huge mistake. I hope he gets some vowels. He also has kept those 2 C's for more than one turn now. I'd be eager to get rid of them. Luckily for him, Kevin can't come back with anything too major here because he's got his own problem.
Yeah, Kevin full of problems as well. His problems are vowels, and I don't see more than 10 points for him this turn. And the 10-point plays are, frankly, a little bit crazy. Iota plays alongside Jailers, making SI for 10, but you're not opening this board in that situation.
Yeah, that is not worth it. Although we saw him play AI in the beginning for just the 4 points, so we'll see if he's a little more conservative now about opening the board up.
Or you can play AI 2 more times if you want. AALIIS to the S in Jailers scores 7, gets rid of a lot of this stuff. Looks like Aeoli's to the S might be what he's thinking about here. Also scores 7. But hey, if you're going to exchange here, you're probably going to exchange holding T or AT or ALT. So why not just get 7 points and play Aeoli's? Also against Orry, I would prefer to try to get this board back open. Again, he is so good on these tight boards. And Aeoli's gonna open this board back up while scoring 7 points. You can't fall further behind.
It's true, but on the other hand, Orry's got so many high-scoring consonants that he could maybe come back on the triple with. He's just going to exchange Aeoli. Okay, so we're seeing a different strategy from the beginning with the AI, where he's like, you know what? I am not going to give you this opportunity. You can be in charge of opening this board up. I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah. And Orry keeping those consonants, and now he's going to have really high scoring plays through the L or through the A in Levator that he didn't block up last turn. He'll have either Gach, Gach, or Clatch, Clach. Both of those playing for mega points. Gach is 36, Clatch is 40. So Orry showing us, hey, forget it. I'll keep this garbage and I'll score with it too. Again, famously does not like to exchange. but he's going to fight his way through this rack and actually outscore his opponent in the process. Neat.
Yeah, that definitely worked out. I mean, he kind of gets the whole two birds, one stone situation here. If he does something like, yeah, Gatch or Clat, either way, he's shutting down that little section of board pretty nicely too. So for someone who likes to play with a relatively closed board, I think we see how that strategy is working out for him right now, and it's pretty well.
The other huge consideration between those two plays, and this is something that makes Orry so good, is Gatch keeps the Zag's hook available, whereas Clatch would have blocked it. Orry has that hook. He's going to keep it available to him because he wants to capitalize on that advantage. When he gets lucky, he wants to wield those good tiles as much as he can. Kevin brings up something I'd like to see in Scrabble. I actually hope to see one day the rules change, and if you exchange and your exchange is so bad that your previous rack was better, then you should be able to just not exchange. Put the 5
Exactly.
back in the bag and keep your original rack. Looks like we got a challenge. Gatch, I believe, was added in 2018, and maybe Kevin not familiar with it, but he's going to challenge it, or he's going to gain a free turn. As this is NWL, we're playing double challenge. Maybe a frustration challenge, maybe just I've never seen that before. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, playing on stream is so hard, and everything you thought you knew goes out the window. So Orry carefully picking up one free turn after the exchange, another free turn on the challenge, and possibly even a third free turn, as Kevin may have to exchange again. And Orry wielding that S, going to hit the highest scoring bingo available of Stencil. So a huge swing in this game in just a few turns. Orry looked like he was in big trouble, but plays PIED, gets a bad draw from Kevin, a great draw of his own, and a big challenge, and he's going to surge way ahead. What looked like might have been a nice, tight, closed game is now firmly in Orry's favor.
Absolutely. And also, if I'm Orry now, rather than thinking I want to keep things open for myself, my whole game is just going to be shutting down that board. If you can score well in the process, that's great. But I think we don't have an updated score on here, but his score is going to be, pretty significantly higher.
What he has to do with this 94. We've got 160 to 300 now.
Right. So he's got 100. He's got 2 bingos ahead, basically. His job now is just going to be, well, his job might be to bingo, given those letters.
And look what Orry's done. All of a sudden, he's ahead by 140 points on a board that is dead. Like, it didn't seem like it was dying. And all of a sudden, how are we going to get to the left side? How are we going to get to the top of this board? It's going to be very difficult. And if you do try to open, he's just going to whack you closed. So Kevin is in a ton of trouble. Our score bug is wrong. I'll try to get our production team to fix that. I think we missed the pass on Kevin's turn. There we go. But yeah, 160 to 300 should be our score right now, as Kevin faces an uphill battle to get back into this one.
True. And also, I don't know if Kevin's going to do anything to block Orry's bingos right now. His, what for me as a redhead is an incredibly appropriate word, sunburn. Also maybe appropriate given the temperature in Vegas right now.
Yeah, 115 today in Fahrenheit, or 47 or so in Celsius, something like that. I'll check the weather just so I can feel good about the terrible weather we've been having here in Philly.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm in New York City. We had the same thing.
I live in Texas. We're in Tornado Alley, right? And I've been in Philly for about a month, and we've had 2 different nights where the tornado sirens are going off. Like, I thought I got away from this, right? But alas, wow. And now we've got unhealthy air again as those wildfires from Canada pull more smoke down here. What is going on? I don't know.
Wow.
Okay.
Kevin went for another trade, which is, I get why he had to do that. It's just got to be pretty painful when you lose a turn, then get bingoed on. Now you have to lose another turn. This trade better work out for him, or I would be upset.
Yeah. That's a bummer. I know we've got the 6 pass rule where if there are 3 or 6 consecutive scores of 0, the game ends. But perhaps for Kevin, he'll get 6 scores of 0 in a row on his own, as he scored 0 3 straight turns. Exchange, lost, challenge, exchange. Now he'll probably play out of this next rack. He's finally drawn a great rack. and he'll likely bingo next turn. But Orry, to respond first, he gets to decide what he wants to do as he's drawn some goodies. This blank is going to help him. BNRSSU blank. He's got Auburns. He's got Sunburn. Uncurbs, actually his highest scoring bingo here for 80. Perhaps he's missing it, or perhaps he likes the defensive play merits of Auburn's. I don't think so. Putting that R in the double-double line is not what you want to be doing if you're trying to be defensive. A play like Burnous, Burnous, would be maybe a little more defensive. I think he just missed or isn't quite sure of uncurbs and playing a word that he knows for sure is good in Auburn's. But that's going to allow Kevin to bingo back, as Kevin with AEMNRST can hit either Sarmenta to the blank A or Sarment or Martins on the bottom of this board.
Right. It's got to be frustrating that you finally draw your bingo tiles and it's only going to really negate what happened to you the turn before and not actually catch you up. But 'tis better than no bingo at all.
So Orry drawing a blank, but not actually a blank, just BLANK this time, although he may be looking for the second one soon. Sorry, if you don't like my jokes, just close Twitch right now. I am not going anywhere. I'm anchored to this chair for 2 weeks, giving you all the Scrabble coverage. But Orry's got to decide what to do now. Many of his best plays all play at the bottom of the board alongside Stencil, things like Balk or Lack, LAKH, Hank, but all of those set up big S hooks as far as I know. I believe LAKH takes an S on the back. Yes, it does. So Orry not wanting to open up this board, but with the letters he has, he almost has to. I'm curious to see how he fights through this situation.
Kevin was giving us the most, I was like, put them on your rack. I want to see what tiles you have.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, chat pointing out all S's, all blanks unseen. Thank you, Ari, for that. So actually, Orry can definitely make one of these plays like LAKH and doesn't have to worry about getting hit by a back hook, doesn't have to worry about opening the board. Yeah, he'll see that. Great call by Ari. Thank you. And thanks to everybody in chat, by the way, for joining us today, giving us some live stimulation as we've seen now 2 kind of garbage games back to back. Hang out with us all day. You got nothing better to do on a Monday, right? Keep me some company.
So at least, for Kevin's sake, he didn't draw terrible tiles. Now, is there like a super high scoring opportunity? That's going to depend on if Orry can open up the board for him. I don't know. Does Adenoid take an S?
Adenoid does take an S, yes.
Okay, so that's nice.
Yeah, and Orry unlikely to block that spot. So Kevin sneaking back into this game after several bad draws. He's drawn 2 very high probability racks in AEMNRST and ADDEINO. So I don't think Adenoids is getting blocked to the S. And I think Orry, whatever Orry plays here is going to end up allowing a bingo back. Orry set up HALL, and I wonder... I don't think he's going to play HALL alongside Stencil because it takes a back O in addition to a back S. No S's out, but 3 O's still unseen. So maybe he's looking at playing a shall instead from the S in Sarmenta. Or maybe he's just faking us out. I'm not sure what the thought is here.
Maybe he's just trying to figure out a way to shut down that S lane of jailers, but I again don't see him doing that because first off, it wouldn't be effective. It would not actually shut down that lane for Kevin's bingo.
Yeah, Orry likely wants to hold on to these scoring tiles too. He's not looking to bingo anymore to win this game. If he can just consistently bonk 30 points down on this board, he'll win the game, even if Kevin bingos twice now. So absolutely. I think that's why he's looking to get rid of some of these L's, holding BNK or HNK, something like that. Actually reasonably nice for him given what he's trying to achieve. What other play I might see Orry think about is Orry might think about is something like cons to the H, KHANS. But no, shall is what he's going to do. Yeah, that makes some sense. Again, BNK, if you can just score, especially when the unseen pool, I believe, is 20 vowels and 19 consonants from Orry's perspective, BNK makes sense to hold.
Absolutely. I think, you have to assume that your opponent is going to get that bingo and that you can't be comfortable in this game, especially in this division, right? I think he has the right instinct, and of course, it totally worked out for him. He drew those vowels. That you're right. If he just keeps getting these little scores, Kevin not only has to bingo, but then have something else. Ideally, bingo twice. That's going to be pretty hard. So, as long as he can just keep getting a few points here and there, I think Ori can feel comfortable. But good on him for not uh, you know, assuming that the game is won. It's not over till it's over.
Absolutely. And Kevin to bingo again next turn. He'll surge back ahead. Adenoid playing in three different spots now, on the left of shall, on the right of shall, and to the S. If I'm Kevin, I'm not sure which of these I actually choose. Adenoid on the left side, making AL is his highest scoring option, scores 67, but does get bonked back, pun intended, by big counter plays like bonk, which would play for Orry for like 50 points. On the left side, closes the board off a little bit more and scores fewer points, but doesn't allow bigger counter plays. And then to the S probably closes the board more than the other options and knocks out your best bingo line. So Orry, you can see the face he's making, like you just drew Sarment and then Adenoid back to back. But again, this is why Orry is such a good closed board player. Look at what he did. He held BNK, made a play that I don't think many other players would make. And now he is going to bonk that spot very hard with a play like Bunk for a gazillion points. Bunkie, Bunkie, or Bunko, Bunko, play for either 60 or 54 points next turn.
It's
So
basically a bingo in itself.
right, yeah. Kevin hits a small little dinky bingo, 67-point baby bingo, and Orry going to hit him back for 60 or 54. Wow. Yeah, great job, Orry.
I think that might be why I would have changed my decision. I mean, obviously, if you're Kevin, you're thinking, I gotta score points, but I think I maybe would have just taken it down to the S. Um, it's not like the board is completely closed off, and then, hey, maybe I can bingo again the next turn. I would be too nervous to play Adenoid, knowing there's, you know, V's and X's and W's and Y's and K's and B's still out. The
Orry
good
is
news
setting
for
up.
him is maybe he'll be able to come back with something of his own here.
Yeah, Kevin, nowhere near bingo racks right now, EIIVWXY. But maybe he can score now and get himself in range next turn. He's not absolutely done from this game yet. We'll try to get the unseen pool up as we approach the end of this game. There are 21 tiles in the bag, unseen to Orry, 28 total unseen to Orry. As he's going to play, looks like he has found Bunko. If you're going to make a play like Bunkie here, Bunkie, grab the extra points, you have to be absolutely certain of the hooks. Does it take an S? Does it take an R? Does it take both? Does it take a D? So Bunko, a little bit of a tighter play. My anagrammer tells me that Bunkie only takes an S, again, a non-consideration as all S's and blanks have been played. So in this situation, probably better to grab the points, but unless you're 100% sure of the hooks, go ahead and play Bunko. The worst thing you want to do is let him hook an R, not have the stones to challenge, and let him back into this game. So good choice by Orry. I'd expect he's just not 100% certain either of the 6 Bunkie or of the hooks to Bunkie. And Kevin now trying to respond out of a bunch of muck on his rack.
I think we saw an appropriate reaction from Kevin just now. The exhale of like, oh man, right when I was like finally within striking distance. Um, he's now going to have a pretty tough time. I wonder what the big scoring opportunities are for him here. And, ideally they would line up so that he also sets himself up for a good leave. I think it's going to be pretty difficult for him to have a good leave with this rack.
Yeah, there's not much you can do. I think you're actually looking not at a good leave necessarily, but at specific bingos now that you might be able to draw. Can I draw into Virelay, Virelay? Can I draw into, things like that? Look at what's in the bag right now. Figure out, is there something I can put myself in range for with a T draw, with an E draw, with an R draw? because you're going to need to bingo now and likely again before the end of this game. So what chances can I give myself to bingo next turn? How can I get there? And how can I score a little bit in the process? Do I make a play like wiry? Is there any way I can bingo with EIVX with what's unseen? Do I make a play like OX, just plunk the X in the top right corner, OX and EX for 40 or 36 points? Looks like that's what he's going to do. He won't be bingoing this turn, but he only plays off one tile, perhaps giving him a little bit more time down the road to get one of his bingos down in the future.
Exactly. It's kind of the opposite from the beginning of the game where we said go into the bag as much as you can. Now, if you're Kevin, you're like, I don't want this game to end just yet. I'd like to hopefully, draw something big. Did that ultimately happen? No, but I don't know what he could have drawn that would have been excellent at this point. Um, with both the blanks gone, all the S's gone. I think next turn he's going to have to do something like wiry or I don't know, something to get rid of that Y. Those letters together, the odds of bingoing are pretty iffy.
Yeah, and Orry looking to play, I think, unripe here, making OPE, just shut the rest of this board down. Yeah, I'll give you a floating U. I don't really care. Crucially, I also float the U out for myself. The Q is still unseen, and there aren't really many ample opportunities to play it, but unripe will hold an I for Orry should he pick up the Q. It'll set up a U for him to play through. It'll set an I on the board for him to play on top of with QI. So I think the only thing Orry really needs to think about right now is try not to let Kevin bingo and try not to like eat the Q or anything. You could also play unrip in the top left corner, making PAL. That's 29 points, holds EI, but 6 E's still unseen to Orry with just 15 tiles in the bag. I'm not too excited to hold EI. I'd rather play it off. Or he can do almost anything, though, in this circumstance and win. He just needs to avoid a high-scoring bingo and a Q stick or 2 bingos from Kevin. And with that unseen pool, both of those seem quite unlikely.
Absolutely. I think you're exactly right. With that unseen pool, putting that U available, it's not a huge risk. Um, Even if your opponent has the Q, I'm not thinking even if he bingoed using that cue, that wouldn't be enough to catch up to you at this point. And it's probably a lot more, uh, does a much better job of shutting down than it does of opening up. Um, and at this point, the opposite of Kevin's thing, Ori probably wants to draw as many tiles as he can and just get this game done with. The fewer opportunities that Kevin has to bingo, the better. So if there aren't a lot of tiles left in the bag, he can't even bingo twice if he wanted to. I mean, he can technically at this point, but we're getting closer to that point statistically where he could no longer bingo.
Right, yeah, and with the unseen pool too, not too much. If I'm Kevin, I might just think about ending this game as quickly as I can now. I'm more or less done, down over 120 points, not too many tiles in the bag, and I've got muck. If you really want to, you can go aggro, exchange here, perhaps hold one of your eyes, or perhaps hold nothing at all and just see if a miracle happens. But he's done. Maybe just play something like review. Maybe even think about trying to stick Orry with the Q since you know you don't have it and he's just played a bunch of tiles. Or I don't know. I think at this point there's not too much left to do. Am I trying to milk spread? Can I work out a Q stick? Do I want to try to bingo? I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be a tough decision. Of course, it's easy to say, oh, it's over for him. I mean, he could still possibly pass 400 points, which is perfectly respectable score. He just had a series of kind of yucky draws there, and it didn't help, of course, if you're going to lose a challenge to then be bingoed on the next turn. Oof, that's rough. It looks like he is looking for review. I think it might make sense for him to cut his losses at this point and just get rid of as much gunk as he can, kind of like at this point, let's end the game with me having a little dignity. I don't think looking at the pool that's left that he has much of a chance of bingoing after playing review, but I think it might be time for him to cut his losses.
Yeah, I think cutting your losses is exactly right. He's just worried now. Am I going to eat the Q if I pull it here? Yes, I'm holding an I, but there aren't spots aside from that floating U. If I draw it, or he might stick me with it. Three T's in the bag, so I could play QAT through the A and shall, but review's going to block that. On top of everything else terrible that's happened to me, am I going to get Q stuck? I'd rather not get Q stuck. So not much to talk or think about here as Kevin kind of rolls over and loses this game. We'll take a look at the standings while we wait for this game to end. Jackson Smiley, again, 2 games up on 2 players, both Kevin Fraley at 11-4 behind Jackson's 13-2, and also Josh Sokol at 11-4 behind Jackson's 13-2. But if Kevin drops this one and Jackson wins his next one, he could pull 3 games ahead of almost the entire field, which is nuts at this stage of the tournament to be so far ahead. But Jackson has been tearing it up really all month, all summer in Scrabble. All right, Ivy coming up.
Ivy.
That's fine. Plays fewer tiles. Maybe EEIW goes somewhere with you with all those T's in the pool. I don't know. I think you just kind of make a play. And Orry
technically opens up one more lane, albeit a pretty tricky one.
Yeah, Orry can play Dogma now, DOGMA and AAL in the top left corner. That'll score 39 and draw into this bag quite a bit. Unseen Pool is ridiculous to Orry. 6 E's, IQRTTW. So, yeah, and Kevin's rack has it spelled out. Ew. So,
which is very appropriate. Onomatopoeic, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know how many different spellings of that we have now. I know when I was a kid, back in the day, we had none, and now I think we got 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, ew is just about all Kevin has to say about the way this game has gone for him. That huge pivotal swing, a bad draw from Kevin, curiously exchanging Aioli instead of playing it for 7, losing a turn on a challenge, drawing a bunch more garbage and having to exchange again. Just an absolutely pivotal 3-turn sequence in a game where Kevin went from slightly ahead to buried underwater very quickly.
Yeah, things just kind of went from bad to worse in a swift succession. Maybe that's Orry's new calling card. I think for Kevin right now, I mean, there's nothing left in the bag. Or one tile maybe. He knows that it's over. He could do something like EEW under Sarmenta. I'm not even seeing like huge scoring plays for him. It's not necessarily worth it to try and block the Q spot because there is more than one Q spot available.
Yeah, I mean, the floating U, if I'm Kevin, I'm actually looking at this pool now and trying to figure out, can I get bingoed on? Iterate or Arietta are there? Do those fit anywhere? I'd hate to draw the Q as a last tile in the bag and let Orry bingo out on me. So that's actually what I'm mostly thinking about here. I don't want to get bingoed on top of everything
defensively
else.
Here because I was... Oh, let's see. He also doesn't have terribly much time to think about all these things.
Yeah, I just ran it through. There are no playable bingos with any 7-tile combination in the bag that Orry could have, but Kevin needs to take his time and make sure, really doesn't want that to happen, and also wants to guarantee that he has something he can do with the Q if he draws it. If he plays EEEW and picks up the Q, what's he going to do with it? Can Orry stick him with it?
That would be, I mean, I think you have to think at this point, come on, tile gods, cut me at least one break.
Yeah, but as we've seen, when the tile gods decide to dump on you, they dump and dump and dump. We've seen some strange luck so far this tournament, but Lady Luck in Vegas is different from anywhere else, as these players are showing us.
Absolutely.
Orry's had just like the most casual 500 game. Yeah, he's had 3 bingos, but usually with 500, you expect to see 4 or 5. Just, kind of casually sitting there. And Kevin has bingoed 3 times on his own, 3 bingos for both players, and yet 150-point margin of victory for Orry.
It's incredible. It's those plays like Bunko. I think when players first start in Scrabble, their instinct is, I got to bingo all the time. I got to bingo all the time. But yeah, bingos are great. But you get plays like Bunko, that's worth a bingo right there. It's almost more valuable to make sure you're utilizing all of the tiles you have than to have 3 20-point plays in a row just to get to your 60-point play.
Yeah, I know the old adage, like 20, 20, 20 bingo, groom your rack, score 23 turns in a row and hit a bingo, right? But Ori's just like, how about 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40? And if I draw a bingo, great. And
Exactly.
worked to a charm this time. Orry also certainly helped by the tiles. It's very hard if you have vowels, as Kevin's had over and over this game, to score points, and it's quite easy to it's quite easy to score with consonants as long as you have one vowel or the right floating vowel. So plays like GACH, FLOW, those vowel or consonant heavy plays that still scored a lot of points. And Kevin unable to do stuff, aioli playing for 7 or something like that.
Exactly. Both with yucky tiles, but Ori's being much more playable. Now for Orry, he knows what Kevin has. Kevin likely has, yeah, he has a few outplays, right? But for Orry, he's just going to need to get rid of that Q. The question is, where is the most valuable place to do it? I mean, he could do something like QAT under unripe, but then he's setting up a little more scoring opportunity for Kevin. He could just play QI. He could, I don't know, do something like equate at quiet. I think at this point it's less about the points and more about let me just get rid of it, make sure I'm not stuck with that at the end, and this game is wrapped up.
Yeah, Ori just trying to find the best end game sequence for himself. Quackle telling us that the best end game sequence is actually QAT underneath unripe. Kevin sitting on. Oh no, I've done this wrong. Sorry, I put in the wrong play for Kevin last turn. I was like, but that doesn't make any sense. Okay, let me check again. ABEIQTT. Okay.
Kevin's only got 22 seconds to make this move. He can go out with retie or he can play right for the points. I think he made the right decision, but gonna get some points. He's gonna pass 400, which we have like a combined score of what's gonna end up being like 950 in this game. I mean, that's incredibly impressive.
Yeah, wow, lots of points on what was over and over described as a closed tight board.
With yucky draws.
Orry gets to go out now with retie, RETIE. That's part of the merit of caught. If your opponent chooses not to go out, you make sure you go out before him. Or if your opponent does go out, whatever, you've shed the Q. So retie, likely Orry's out. He's probably going to take his time, make sure he can't E stick, but there's so many spots for Kevin to drop that E. Retie is his only out, but that'll give him 540 to 419 in a wild game.
I mean, I got to give it to Kevin for having all those racks of disgusting, disgusting vowels. And also from having that really devastating, not just points wise, but I think maybe morally devastating sequence of the challenge after gash into stencil into having to trade. To break 400 is really impressive.
Yeah. I think Orry just doing the math now. If I play TEE underneath EWE, form that little 3x3 square, that's 19 points. Where can Kevin go out? What's the better sequence for me? Players also sometimes selfishly like to pad their stats a little bit. If I score 6 now, I'll score a little bit less. But if I score 19 now, even if the margin of victory is a little bit closer, my stats look good. I scored a lot of points, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know Ori, he is just in this for showing off and for the stats. Clearly, he is a man who is obsessed with his image. He's known as the bad boy of Scrabble. No, I don't know Ori at all.
Clearly obsessed with his image, which is why he walks around in t-shirts, basketball shorts, and Crocs, because definitely cares what others think about him a lot. Very image concerned. Just kidding. I know Orry extremely well. I'm happy to make these jokes. He's a great dude. Spent numerous nights at his house, met his wife a bunch of times. They're great people, huge nerds. Orry, a lover of video games. He's actually going through and trying to play, I believe, every single classic video game on the NES, cover to cover, beginning to end, and writing a review on them with a mini paragraph. So that's a cool thing. If you like retro video games, he's got quite a collection as well. A speedrunner himself and his wife, and they just started a family recently as well. Orry's a great dude. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't also talk about Orry's Magic the Gathering background, as he's won numerous trips to Europe, sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, for his success at Magic the Gathering tournaments. So Orry, a man of many, many talents, all nerdy pursuits, but he is exceptionally good at all of them, and putting on a clinic here, showing us how to score a gazillion points, or rather 540 points, in a game of Scrabble. So that victory going to push Orry up to 11-5, knock Kevin down to 11-5, and keep both players right in the thick of things here at the Scrabble Players Championship from Las Vegas, Nevada. We are now pushing the halfway point. I believe we just passed it, actually. So round 16 underway, or finished here. And we should have a very short intermission before getting back to additional games. I'm looking at the matchups now to try to figure out who we want to get on stream.
Do we happen to know if do we know if Jackson won his last game? Is he starting to seal this up?
Looks like standings are still trickling in. Jackson did win his last game. Josh also winning his last game. So Jackson 14-2, Josh 12-4, and this is going to put both Kevin, Noah Walton, Eric Goldstein, and Orry Swift at 11-5. All 3 games behind Jackson, 1 game behind Josh in a cluster. And Ian Weinstein, who had a terrible Word Cup, is potentially also 11-5, pending his result against, I can't even see who he's playing, against Eric Goldstein. Okay, no, sorry, I don't know who he's playing, but tight division here for sure. Jackson threatening a runaway, but when we take the top 2 and make him play in a best of 5, running away doesn't do anything with it. So alas, we will be back in just a few moments with our next matchup. Orry and Kevin using most of their time and had a bit of a delayed start. So this should, for real, be a very short intermission, and we'll get more Scrabble action for you. Once again, the plan is to do all NWL action today and tomorrow, barring something crazy happening. I'm Matt Canik, joined by Hannah Lieberman. Y'all don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few moments with more Scrabble from Las Vegas.